Hi everyone, it's Terry here from nutsaboutsstamping.com. In this video tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create an attractive 3D effect on your cards, and in this particular case, on a Dashing Deer Christmas card. I've already created two videos showing you two other ideas for Dashing Deer. I'll make sure I link them in the cards in this video so you can head on over and see some other ideas. But I'm really excited about this card today because of the 3D effect. So as I've said, I'm going to use the Dashing Deer bundle, which is the stamp set and the detailed deer thinlits. And I'm also going to use my tufted embossing folder. This is what will create a 3D effect. Now, as I go through the video, I'll be sure to give you some other tips and tricks along the way. So listen in closely and maybe I can share something new for you. So when you use a dynamic embossing folder, which is what this tufted one is, they are a thicker embossing folder. You want to use a different sandwich. So my Christmas card is going to use a layer of crumb cake. So I'm going to put the crumb cake inside the folder, line it up, make sure it's nice and straight. And then I'm going to use my Big Shot platform. I'm going to put the embossing folder with the fold so it runs first through. And then I'm just going to use one standard cutting pad. And then I'm going to run it through my Big Shot. I'm not done with my Big Shot just yet, but I am done with my platform and my tufted embossing folder. And look at that. See that stunning 3D effect? That's going to be a layer on my card. My card base is going to be Night of Navy, and then I'm going to end up adhering this layer onto it. But let's move on and get some other elements ready for the card, and then I'll put it all together in a minute. So I have a layer of Whisper White cardstock, and I've got this large deer from the Dashing Deer stamp set. And I'm going to ink it up using my soft suede ink. Now here's a tip for you. When you use really large stamps that don't really fit perfectly onto your ink pad, even though our ink pads are really a nice size, I always turn my stamp so that the image is facing me, and then I pat the ink down on top of it. That way I can see that I'm applying ink on the entire image and not missing out on any of the sections. So I'm going to stamp this down, and then I'm going to die cut it out using one of the thinlits in the detailed deer pack. So this sandwich is different. When I use my metal dies, I use my magnetic platform, my bottom standard cutting pad, and then I'm going to put on my deer, and I've got the thinlit that's going to fit around it. I just need to angle it a little bit to make sure it's going to work. Now I have another bit of die cutting I want to do, but because this one's quite intricate, I think I'm just going to run it through by itself first. Top standard cutting pad, and then I'm going to run it through. Oh, beautiful. Okay, set that aside for a second, and then before the video began, I took one of the corner thinlits from the detailed deer dies, and I want to die cut it out in Night of Navy. And so before the video began, I took one of the Multipurpose Adhesive Sheets and cut it and adhered it to the back of the Night of Navy layer. And that's going to create a sticker that I'm going to put on my card front. So I've got my magnetic platform, bottom standard cutting pad, my die with the cardstock, and I put the adhesive sheet down so it's on the bottom. And then I'm going to run this forward, and I'm going to run it back because any kind of detailed dies, I like to make sure it has a nice clean cut in it. And then I'm going to take my U-pick tool and I'm going to poke out all the little bits and pieces from this detailed die, and then it'll be ready to attach to the front of my card. All right, I have these two elements ready for the front of my card, and it occurred to me that you may not have seen this Take-A-Pick tool. It's relatively new, and it's got so many uses, more than just using the pointy end. So if you'd like me to make a special video tutorial introducing this tool and showing you how to use it, then add a comment underneath this video, and I'm happy to do that. And when I was away picking away at all those little bits and pieces, I realized there's one other element I want for the front of my card, and that is I want to bring in a tiny scrap of Night of Navy. For those of you that are scrapaholics like I am, perfect for using tiny bits that you have left over. So I've got these two flowers from the Detailed Deer Thinlits dies, and I love it. I love this pack because you get 2 in 1, so it saves you a little bit of time. By not having to create 2, I can do it in one pass of my Big Shot instead of having to mount a second one. Ooh, that one just cut really close to the edge. All right, let me lift this up and bring in my little pokey tool here, and it works like a charm. It really does. Okay, and now I think we are ready to put the card together. All of my elements are done for the front of my card now, and so let's create the card. My base is going to be Night of Navy. I've cut 11 by 4 1/4, scored it at the 5 1/2 mark. I'm going to bring in my tufted layer, my crumb cake that I've tufted. And what I want to do is add a couple of pieces of tear and tape adhesive to the back of this embossed layer, because I'm going to add an element to it. And I had the adhesive all ready to go on the back of this and remembered, wait, you want to add this other element first. So let's do that. If I can get this adhesive off. There we go. Now to that, I'm going to add a layer of the Night of Navy gingham ribbon. I am just crazy for this ribbon, and I hardly ever use it, so I'm going to add this to my card front as a layer. And now I'm going to add this layer to my card base, like so. And then before the video began, I took a square of Night of Navy and I attached a layer of Whisper White to it, and that's going to go on top. Now, as a tip, I could add Stampin' Dimensionals to pop it up, but I don't want this bit to be the feature of my card, which is why I'm not going to pop it up. Just going to add it as a layer like so. And then what I'm going to do is I want to bring in this little element, but it's going to get in the way of my deer. So what I'm going to do is bring in my paper snips, and I'm going to cut this bit off. So consider that another tip for you, that you don't have to use the whole layer when you create a sticker. You can cut it into bits and just use the bits that you want or the bits that fit. So let me peel this off. There we go. Okay. I'm going to adhere this to the corner just as a nice element. And now I'm going to bring in my deer, and I'm going to add it using some Stampin' Dimensionals. And I'm going to use the Take a Pick tool to pick up the dimensionals that I want and to add them to the deer. And I think 3 is fine. These are really sticky, so they will work well. Okay, so let's add the deer to the front of the card, like so, coming along nicely. And then I want to add a phrase, obviously, for the front. So I have the Happiest Christmas Wishes from the stamp set, from the Detailed Deer, or the Dashing Deer stamp set. And I'm going to ink it up, stamp it down, and I'm going to adhere it to the bottom front of my card. As another tip, you know, phrases don't just have to go at the bottom. They can also go at the top. Wait, I want to center this a little bit. Okay, like so. And then the last thing I'm going to do is bring in these little flowers that I die cut, and I'm going to put a mini dimensional on the back of each one. And I am going to add a little flower to the backs, or to the front of my card to highlight the phrase. Like so. And there we go. My Christmas card is ready to send to somebody special. Now, as another tip, I could do a little eye. I could use one of our rhinestone jewels or one of our basic pearls and add an eye to the deer. I could put a little red jewel or rhinestone on his nose. I could move the ribbon up to the top and make a bow instead of as a layer underneath. And then don't forget too that on the inside of your card you would want to add a layer of Whisper White, and look at some of the other elements that are in the die pack or in the stamp set to add some more interest to the card. For a complete listing of what I used to create this card and the measurements for all of the layers, please visit my blog, www.nutsaboutstamping.com. And while you're over on my blog, don't forget to subscribe to my newsletters. They're free, and I send one every week, and I'll show you a project you won't see anywhere else. Also on my blog, and I'll make sure I link it here underneath the video, will be the link to my online store for when you're ready to place an order through me. I'm Terry. I am Nuts About Stamping. I hope you create something beautiful today too. Bye for now.